The moment I told my boss the new feature had crossed $400,000 in monthly recurring revenue, the room went quiet in a way that felt wrong. I'm Emma. I was the product lead on the platform. Everyone in that meeting pretended they understood. I finished my sentence, waiting for the usual response, congratulations. Maybe a forced smile, but none of that came. My boss, Richard, leaned back in his chair and said, "Who controls access?" I blinked. "Access to what? The core system," he replied. "Voice even. Who can change it without approval?" There were people in that room who had reviewed my work for months. No one spoke, I said, carefully. "I do. It's part of my role." Richard nodded once. Not approval, more like confirmation. "Good to know." The meeting ended 10 minutes early. As we stood up, one of my teammates whispered, "That was weird," and I laughed it off. Startups get tense around growth. That's what I told myself on the way back to my desk. That's what I told myself when Richard didn't respond to my follow-up email. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at RevengeAITA. While inspired by real workplace dynamics and power struggles many professionals face, all characters, companies, and events are fictional. This story explores control, ownership, and the moment a person realizes their value was never tied to permission. The next morning, I walked into the office and stopped cold. My desk was empty. No laptop, no notebook, no badge. Just a single envelope placed dead center. Like someone wanted to be sure I saw it before anything else. I opened it standing up. Inside was a termination letter with my name printed cleanly at the top. Effective immediately, below it, a handwritten note in Richard's sharp, familiar script. "I've invested too much in you. I have the right to take this back." I stood there while coworkers avoided my eyes. My phone buzzed once. Access revoked, email gone, calendar wiped. I didn't say anything. I didn't argue. I just folded the letter slowly. Because in that moment, I understood something Richard didn't. He thought he had taken everything. The email from Human Resources arrived before I reached the elevator. "Asset recovery is now in process." It read, "Please confirm that all company property has been returned." I stared at the screen, then looked down at my empty hands. I typed back. My desk was cleared before I arrived. The reply came almost instantly. Noted. I folded the termination letter again, slower this time, and slipped it into my bag. As I turned the corner, Richard stepped out of his office like he had been waiting for me. "Emma," he said, lowering his voice, "let's keep this professional." "Professional." I held up the envelope. "You wiped my access before speaking to me." He sighed. The kind of sigh meant to sound patient. "You're taking this personally." "You fired me overnight. We made a decision," he corrected. "You were becoming complicated." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Complicated because the product worked. He leaned closer. "Because you forgot who made that possible." "I built it," I said. "You were paid to build it," he replied. "We invested in you, training, resources, trust." He gestured vaguely down the hallway. "That feature didn't happen in a vacuum." "My name is on the architecture," I said. "You approved every design, and I gave you the authority," he snapped. Then he caught himself and softened his tone. "That's my point. Authority comes from us." I watched his face as he spoke, the confidence of someone who had rehearsed this conversation. "You should be grateful," he continued. "Most people don't get to work on something this big." "Grateful." The word landed like a slap. "You took my laptop," I said. "You locked me out without notice." "Company property," he said. "Company systems." "My work isn't a leash," I replied. His jaw tightened. "Careful." That was when it clicked. The meeting yesterday, the question about access, the silence afterward. This wasn't a reaction, it was a plan. Richard straightened his jacket. "We'll take it from here." I met his eyes and said nothing. Anger burned hot in my chest, but I kept it contained. He wanted me emotional. Unstable? Wrong. As he walked away, I realized he truly believed he owned what I had built, and that belief was about to cost him far more than he understood. I didn't cry when I got home. I didn't pace or call anyone. I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and read the termination terms line by line. Access to company systems has been transferred to management. The document said, transferred, not revoked, not disabled, transferred. I opened my email backup. The one I had set up months ago after a late-night conversation with our security lead. He had laughed when I told him I liked redundancy. Paranoia keeps systems alive, he'd said. I scrolled through the permissions list Richard had signed off on: reporting access, dashboard visibility, read-only analytics. That was it. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya, one of the engineers. They locked us out of the deploy pipeline, she wrote. Do you know what's going on? I stared at the message, then typed back, I don't work there anymore. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Wait. I set the phone face down and leaned back. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. Why are there 2 dashboards? Richard had asked during a review weeks earlier. I had kept my tone neutral. One shows performance metrics, the other controls system behavior, and both are necessary. One is for visibility, I said. One is for stability. He had frowned. Seems redundant. It's deliberate, I replied. Different audiences need different access. He nodded like he understood. He didn't ask another question, now. Sitting alone, I logged into my personal credentials. Everything responded exactly as it should. No alarms, no warnings, no changes. They hadn't touched the core routing. They hadn't taken the scaling logic. They hadn't even realized there was a separation. Richard had taken the dashboard, the one designed to look important, the one executives loved because it gave them numbers and charts and the illusion of control. I opened a system log and watched activity scroll by. New attempts, failed handoffs, confusion spreading quietly through layers. No one else knew how to read. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Richard. Can you confirm something for me? His message read. There's an issue with the reporting view. I didn't reply. For the first time since that meeting, my breathing slowed, the panic drained out, replaced by something steady and cold. He thought he had taken access. What he had actually taken was the decoy. I logged in one last time using my personal administrator credentials, not to change anything, not to move files or shut systems down, just to leave. My phone rang while the screen loaded. It was Maya again. Emma, she said, voice tight. They're asking for you in the war room. I don't work there, I replied. There was a pause. They said you still have access. I have my access, I said calmly. That's not the same thing, she exhaled. They're saying you're blocking them. I haven't touched anything. I said, check the logs. Silence. Then, quieter. They're pulling them up now. I navigated to the credential panel and selected my name. The permissions list glowed back at me, exactly as it had for months. Full routing authority, deployment override, emergency rollback. I clicked log out. The system asked for confirmation. I confirmed. That was it. No alarms, no errors, no dramatic shutdown. The platform kept running, just as it had before. I sat there for a moment, hands still, waiting for the spike of guilt people always warned about. It never came. I didn't delete anything, I said aloud. Though no one was there to hear it, I didn't take anything. My phone buzzed again, a new number this time. Emma, this is legal, a man said, brisk but cautious. We need to understand what actions you've taken since termination. I logged out. I said, did you alter any data? No. Disable any systems? No. Remove access for others? I removed myself. He paused. We're reviewing the audit trail. You'll find it clean, I said, because it is. The call ended without a response. I opened the activity log on my own screen and watched the entries scroll. My logout. Time stamped. Verified. No deletions, no modifications. I wasn't the system. I was the one holding it together. Another message came through, this time from Richard. Something isn't right, he wrote. We need you to clarify. I closed the laptop without replying. I had done nothing wrong, and somehow, that was exactly what was about to expose everything. The first message came just after noon. It was from Maya again. Deployments are stuck. She wrote, nothing's failing, nothing's moving either. I stared at the screen and set my phone down without answering. An hour later, another name lit up. Jordan from support. Do you still have time to look at a few tickets? He asked. We've got a backlog forming. I'm not on the team, I replied. 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. They said you might still help. He wrote. They shouldn't have said that. A few minutes passed. Then my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. Emma, it's Richard, my former boss said. He sounded annoyed, not panicked. There's some confusion internally. There isn't, I said. Our dashboard shows everything is stable. That dashboard only shows what it's meant to show. He lowered his voice. We just need a quick clarification, a few minutes. Off the record, I'm no longer employed, I said. I can't advise. This is about the company, he snapped. About what you built. What I built is still running, I said. You have access to the reports, he corrected. That's what you asked for. He went quiet, then said, Support is overwhelmed. Then staff support, I replied. You're being difficult. I'm being precise. He exhaled sharply. You know how this looks. I know exactly how it looks, I said. You took control. Use it. I ended the call before he could respond. Later that afternoon, Maya texted again. Clients are asking why nothing new is shipping. I typed, deleted, then typed again. They approved the process, I wrote. They didn't approve the handoff. I set the phone aside and didn't touch it again. From the outside, everything still looked fine. The revenue chart climbed like it always had. The numbers stayed steady. The interface smiled back, clean and reassuring. Inside, nothing moved, no errors, no alerts, just silence spreading. One unanswered message at a time. Richard called just after dinner. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello, Emma, he said. Like we were picking up a meeting that had paused instead of a career he'd ended. Good. You're available. I answered the phone. I said, that's all. He ignored that. There's some friction internally. Nothing serious. We just need you to walk us through a few things. I'm not employed, I replied. This wouldn't be official, he said quickly. Just a conversation. 10 minutes. You fired me without one. I said, you can manage without one now. He laughed, short and controlled. You're being dramatic. I'm being accurate. A breath on the other end. Emma, listen. You built something important here. Nobody's disputing that. You disputed it when you took my access. We took company assets, he corrected. And we can give them back. I don't want them back. That's not what this is about, he said. This is about continuity. You mean dependence? He paused. When he spoke again, his voice softened. You owe this team something. I gave them everything while I was there. You owe me, he said. The edge slipping through. I put you in that position. I trusted you. You trusted the results. I replied. Not me. That feature didn't happen without us, he said. It didn't happen without me either. Silence stretched. Then he tried a different angle. We can revisit the termination, adjust the terms, make this right. You already did, I said. You showed me exactly how you see me. Another pause. Longer this time. Emma, he said quietly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not, I said. You are. I ended the call and set the phone face down on the table. For the first time since the meeting where everything changed. I felt steady, not victorious, not angry, just clear. He had fired me thinking that would end the conversation. Instead, it was the moment he lost control of it. The first renewal didn't fall through, it paused. Maya texted me late that night. Enterprise client wants to delay signing. Legal review, I didn't respond. The next morning, an email thread landed in my inbox by accident. Someone had forwarded it without checking the recipients. My name was still cached in an old distribution list. Subject line, risk exposure review. One message stood out. We need clarity on system ownership and continuity. An investor wrote. Who can operate this independently? Another replied. We were told the knowledge was distributed. A third came in minutes later. It isn't. My phone rang. This time, it wasn't Richard. Emma. It's Daniel, the voice said. Daniel had been an advisor during our early funding rounds. He sounded tired. I won't keep you long. You already are, I said, but gently. They're asking questions. He continued. Hard ones. About what? I asked. About why no one else understands the system you built, he said. About why leadership thought access was the same as knowledge. I leaned back in my chair. And what did they say that you were replaceable, he said. That everything important was documented. I let the silence sit. Daniel cleared his throat. They're requesting an external audit, codebase, process, termination timeline. That won't help them, I said. No. He agreed. It won't. A notification buzzed on my screen. Another forwarded email. Support escalation. Client concerns. Language carefully chosen. fear tucked between bullet points. Is there anything you want me to pass along? Daniel asked. Yes, I said. Tell them I didn't leave gaps. I left boundaries. He exhaled slowly. They're starting to understand the difference. We ended the call. An hour later, a message came through from Richard, copied to the board, polite, formal. Too late. We are confident the situation is under control, he wrote. But confidence wasn't what the investors were asking for anymore. They were asking for proof. Human Resources reached out 3 days later. Emma, the woman said, introducing herself as Karen from compliance. Her voice was careful, practiced. We'd like to schedule an exit interview. I already exited, I said. This is different, she replied. There were procedural concerns. Concerns about what? I asked. A lack of transition, she said. Questions about authorization. About whether proper steps were followed. By whom? I said. She paused. By leadership. That word landed heavier than anything Richard had said all week. We're reviewing potential process violations, Karen continued. In light of recent developments, the company is prepared to discuss amended terms. Reinstatement, I asked. Consulting, she said quickly. Temporary, paid, limited scope. So you want access, I said. We want cooperation. I gave you that when I worked there. Silence. Then, we believe this can be resolved. It already has, I said. Karen lowered her voice. Emma, between us. This escalated faster than anyone expected. It escalated the moment I stopped being useful, I replied. Another pause. Richard feels this has become personal. It was always personal, I said, just not for me. She cleared her throat. Is there anything you want on record? Yes, I said. Please note this clearly. I slowed my words. Not for effect, but for accuracy. You didn't fire me because I failed, I said. You fired me because you were afraid I didn't need you. Karen didn't interrupt. You mistook control for leadership, I continued, and access for ownership. When the call ended, I didn't feel relief. I felt finished. An hour later, an internal memo circulated. Leadership changes under review. External audit approved. Communications to clients pending. No one asked me to come back again. They didn't need an exit interview. They already knew exactly what had gone wrong. I didn't announce that I was consulting again. I just answered emails. The first one came from a founder I'd met years earlier. We need help stabilizing a release. He wrote, short term, clean terms. We spoke for 20 minutes. He didn't ask about my last job. He asked how I thought. You keep ownership of your process, he said. We don't touch what isn't ours. I agreed. A day later, Maya called. Not from the office, from her car. They suspended him, she said. Suspended who? I asked, though I already knew. Richard, effective immediately. I closed my eyes and listened to her breathe on the other end. They said it was temporary, she added. Pending review. Reviews take time, I said. They're already pulling threads, she said. Contracts. Termination approvals. Who signed what? I didn't comment. Another call came that evening. Daniel again. 2 investors withdrew. He said, not quietly, because of the system. I said, because of leadership. He corrected. They said they don't fund companies that confuse possession with competence. I let that sit. Are you okay? He asked. Yes. I said, and meant it. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt lighter. I hadn't set out to expose anyone. I hadn't warned anyone. I had simply stopped holding everything together for people who believed that meant they owned me. That night, I closed my laptop at a reasonable hour. No alerts followed. No frantic messages. The world didn't end. I sent one final invoice for my new contract and archived the thread, somewhere across the city. A company was learning how much it cost to mistake silence for stability. I didn't watch it burn. I walked away. The final email arrived on a quiet morning, copied to a list longer than it needed to be. Effective immediately, it began. Richard Hale has been removed from his leadership role. Below that, a second paragraph followed. An internal review confirmed violations of termination procedure, access governance, and risk oversight. New policies are now in place. My phone rang seconds later. It's done, Daniel said. His voice sounded older than the last time we spoke. They didn't fight it. They couldn't, I replied. They wanted a statement from you, he added. Something neutral. I've already said everything that matters, I said. He paused. For what it's worth, you handled this with more restraint than most people would have. I wasn't trying to win, I said. I was trying to leave clean. After the call, a message came through from one of the investors I'd met only once. We've exited our position, he wrote. We don't invest in people who think they own other people. I read that line twice, then closed the email. I didn't feel relief. I felt alignment. Everything had finally landed where it belonged. Later that afternoon, Maya stopped by my place. She didn't sit down. They're rewriting everything, she said. Access rules, ownership language, even how they talk about talent. Good, I said. She studied me. Do you miss it? I shook my head. I miss who I thought they were. When she left, I opened my laptop and logged into my current project. Clean contract, clear boundaries, mutual respect. I didn't take anything back. I just stopped holding everything together for people who mistook proximity for ownership. Power does not come from control, titles, or access. It comes from knowing when your value is being exploited and having the courage to step away without burning yourself down to keep others warm.